I think it's important for us to realize that it's not okay, that it's not up to somebody else to determine who we are. And yet, so many times I allowed that. And it was how what I thought about myself in the first place that allowed those thoughts to happen.
Welcome to Some Stutter Law, Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about living with communication disorders. It is a production of the Communication Collaborative. My name is Greg O'Grady. I am a person who stutters and your host. Some Stutter Law aims to rebuild confidence and hope for people who live with communication differences by dismantling myths, stigmas, stereotypes, and barriers. For more information about the Communication Collaborative or for this podcast, you can find us at somestutterlaw.ca. Today, Some Stutter Law welcomes Mary Wood. After stuttering for 50 years, Mary discovered information about the fear of rejection and how it showed up in her life as a person who stutters. Mary began focusing on accepting herself as a person who stutters rather than fluency. Since 1993, Mary has inspired people at conferences in Canada, the United States, parts of Europe, and Great Britain. Mary is an ordained United minister. Currently, Mary resides in Lee Summit, Missouri, in the United States. Mary was a previous guest on Some Sort of Law. A revisit is now in order because since her previous Some Sort of Law guest interview, Mary has now become a published author, writing her first book. Congratulations, Mary.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Thank you.
And the name of her book is Beyond the Fear of Stuttering: My Journey to Self-Acceptance and Freedom. So, Mary, welcome to today's podcast. And now, just a few questions I have for you, okay?
Sure, fine.
Now, before we get into the book, I was noticing that, to quote you, you said that these words came to me after hearing a powerful statement at a conference. The mind controls the body. What you think about, I bring about. Would you like to share a little bit about that, Mary?
Yeah, and as I said in the book, I didn't really understand it at the time. I was at a conference that was focused, or the title of it was "Born Rich," and I thought it was about making money, and so I was more focused on that. I was a single mother at the time, but for some reason, these words just stuck with me. And on the way home in the car, my boss had actually asked me to go to the meeting or to the conference. And on the way home, I just got more words, and they were, "You don't have to stutter anymore." Um, I come to understand that what I think about, what I focus on over and over and over again, it doesn't mean that just every thought that we have is going to show up in our lives, because we have about 50,000 thoughts a day. Could you imagine trying to figure that out? But it really means that if we focus on something over and over again, that starts to take be who we are really. And so I was just so focused on every time I spoke, I really expected to stutter.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you for sh- sharing about that, Mary. So, Mary, can you explain the title of your book?
Beyond the fear. And then I read another book by Napoleon Hill, which I also thought it was about money because it's entitled Think and Grow Rich. And in that, he listed our six main fears. The first fear is the fear of poverty, and the second fear we have is the fear of rejection. And when I read that, I just knew again that that was what was at the bottom of the stuttering. That was every time I spoke, I was scared that you were not going to, that my listener or listeners were not going to accept and love me. That was this huge fear that was at the bottom of the stuttering.
Okay.
And I'll just say here too, notice that I don't refer to it as my stuttering, but I refer to it as the stuttering.
The
When I
stuttering. Okay.
worked at the Conservation Authority, the general manager's secretary asked me one day, seeing as I called it my stuttering, did I want to own it? And I said no. And ever since then, it's made a difference for me to call it the stuttering.
Okay. Now, Mary, did you consider other titles for the book before you chose that name? And if so, what were some of the titles you were considering?
I don't think I really I knew it had something to do with the fear of rejection.
Okay.
And so it's always been at first I think it was just, beyond the fear of stuttering, and then a friend of mine suggested that I add another line underneath that about my journey to self-acceptance and and freedom. Most of my speech lessons that I had up until I was probably 35 years old really focused on flu- fluency, and that's okay. Different strokes for different folks, and yet I chose not to go that route after quite a few years, really.
Mm. So would the journey to self acceptance and freedom, Mary, would that be your key message in the book?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Because I also came across another quote from you, and I thought this may relate to the message. My wish for you is to wake up every morning happy to be alive. Is that an underlying theme in the book as well?
I think that's also an acceptance. Just happy to be alive, no matter what we are having, what is happening to us, and sometimes, you know, I'm not saying that you have to be happy all the time, because then that's not really acknowledging what is happening. When you're sad and when you're angry, I think it's important in order to look at where that sadness and where that anger comes from. And yet, so many times, I, you know, I didn't appreciate what I had in my life, and so
Hmm.
now, as I get older, and as we all get older,
We're all getting older. That's true.
whether we want to or not. It's just so, sit sit back and enjoy it. And
Mary, when you talk about the my journey to self acceptance and freedom, what do you mean by the word freedom in that?
free to be who I am, and that's also an acceptance. Free to free to, to travel when I want to travel, free to feel that no matter whether I stutter or not, that I accept myself in every situation I go into. Yeah, there's even saying the word freedom just puts a different energy, puts a different feeling into what I have to say or else what I have to think. So many times we listen to what someone else says we should be, who we should do, and um, very often that's really good advice, or it might be good advice. But in the end, we are free to make the choices that we feel at the time is good for us.
Mhm. What do you feel, Mary, are some 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 of the challenges and or obstacles people who stutter that sort of that impact self acceptance? What are some of the obstacles, the challenges?
And coming back to number one, I think is how we look at ourselves, really, because in the end result of everything else, we are the ones who make the choices for ourselves. And uh, I you know I I listened to people who made fun of me. Um, when I was about 7 or 8, I actually stopped speaking and I wrote on a blackboard because I didn't want anybody else to laugh at me. And so I think, yeah, we I think it's important for us to realize that it's not okay, that it's not up to somebody else to determine who we are.
Hmm.
And yet, so many times I allowed that. And it was what I thought about myself in the first place that allowed those thoughts to happen.
Hmm. So,
Yes, I'm going to allow you to determine who you think I am, and then I'll make that who I think I am.
so you're talking about a change of perspective. People who sort of need to or suggested that we all need to change the perspective about how we approach our stuttering.
That really helps.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is it the worst thing that has ever happened to you? Some people might think so. Other people might not think that.
Hmm.
Other people might think, okay, that it's allowed me, stuttering might be that great, but it has allowed me to be part of an organization like your organization. It has allowed me to meet other people who feel the same way as I do, who talk the same way as I do.
Hmm.
There's a chapter in the book where I say stuttering is my gift.
Hmm.
And I mean, I was amazed when what do you mean it's a gift? You got to be crazy. You're a crazy lady. And yet, really, I mean, it has allowed me to travel, it has allowed me to go so far beyond who I was up until I was about 55.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm not saying that those years weren't really good before that, they were. But you know what? I think they have been richer since then.
Okay. So
And
more,
I don't think I had that
more,
thought before.
more of a fulfilling years now, richer and fulfilling for you. Yeah. But you've also worked hard on you also worked hard on your inner self, Mary, to get where you are today.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it's dedication. I don't know if that's the word. It was like I knew that it was mine to do,
Okay.
and yeah, no matter what, like now, I would say, and I don't know whether this is really true, but I would say in the past even 5 years that there's a lot more conversation about acceptance, and I don't know whether that word was ever around. Maybe it was around when I started, because as I said, I've been part of the stuttering support system since 1993. And I don't know whether I ever heard that word acceptance or whether I just wasn't open to it.
Hmm. So like in the turn, like in terms of self acceptance on a scale from 1 to 10, Mary, where are you now? 10, you have accepted your stuttering. Where are you now in on this scale from 1 to 10?
I would say, as far as the stuttering goes, I'm probably a nine.
Okay.
There are some other areas of my life that I'm still that I'm still working on.
Uh,
And as far as the stuttering goes, I don't really care.
okay.
If if you want to laugh at me when I stutter, that's your problem.
Hmm.
That's that's who you are. No, I shouldn't say it that way. That's who you are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Mary, you are also an ordained minister and a person of strong faith. Is there a spiritual thread or a theme throughout the book? If so, explain. Because you're a minister, you have strong faith. So, is there a spiritual theme embedded in the book?
Hmm. Well, there are chapters. I mean, I'm in the Unity Church. I was ordained in the Unity Church, and which is more spiritual than I guess religious. And so a lot of the chapters in the book are really, part of my learning after I got into ministry, but while I was in the church too, because there's a chapter on forgiveness, and I don't know if anybody else talks about forgiveness.
Hmm.
If they do, I haven't heard it. I would love to hear that. And there's a chapter on gratitude. It's because it's it's not just about the stuttering, but it's about ourselves as a whole person.
Hmm.
And if we're so focused on the stuttering, then the other parts, the wonderful, marvelous parts of who we are, get forgotten almost.
Hmm. Hmm.
Get 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 pushed aside because we're so focused on how I speak,
Hmm.
when there is so much more to you and I as a person who stutters. So much more.
Definitely, Mary. Definitely, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's always this balance. I
They,
mean, one can get so caught up on your stutter that it actually takes away from the enjoyment and appreciation of life itself, all the other activities, things like that. So sometimes I feel, and I'm talking about myself as well, that sometimes I get very tunnel vision and focus on stuttering, but there's a whole holistic approach to a human being.
Just like there is a holistic approach to stuttering. Thank you for that because I don't know if I've ever heard those words.
Mm,
The holistic approach to stuttering is to look at the whole person and not just the speech part.
yeah, yeah. And it's
Woo.
and I feel it's all part of our journey as well of self awareness. I think the more that we sit down and learn, I mean, no, the more that we talk to other people who stutter, much like yourself, uh, attend conferences, workshops, the more that we become more insightful, learn about stuttering and its impact. And I think this is how we can sort of dissect the various problematic areas related to stuttering.
And know that, Tom Sharstein and I have had this conversation before. They say that 1% of the, they say that 1% of the population stutters. And yet I believe that everybody stutters in a different way and comes from none of us have the same thoughts, exactly the same thoughts. None of us stutter in exactly the same way. And so I don't know why I shared that. I just think it's important, to realize that we're all individuals, we're all special.
Hmm. Oh, we are definitely. Mary, where did the idea of writing your book come from? Did you always dream about writing a book, or is it just
No,
evolved?
it just evolved. And I don't know, but what it is, the all, all the chapters are based on workshops that I've done for the stuttering community.
Okay.
And I had a great big folder box full of those talks. I've been doing, you know talks since 1993, and so for some reason I saved a lot of them, and I don't know where the thought of a book came from.
Hmm.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm 85, so sometimes, my memory. No, that's not true. Anyway, yeah. So I just thought, well, what's an easy way to write the book? Rather than starting from
Mm-hmm.
scratch. I just hauled out all these workshops and went through them and added, changed, or took away, and that's the
So
book.
when you had decided to write the book, Mary, did how did you start to talk to your friends about it, or how did you pull people together to help you write it, edit it? What was the process?
Well, another really good friend of mine, she's also a minister. Her name is Martha Creek. She had just written a book. And so she gave me the name of an editor. He lives in the States and he's a retired Unity minister. And then she gave me the name of a young man who I believe lives in Mississippi, who just, I just sent him all my chapters and he pulled the whole thing together
Hmm.
after it was edited. He really assisted getting it onto Amazon. It was a little expensive to do it that way. And yet, at the same time, I was retiring from the church, and there was a lot going on, with COVID that we've had for the past 2 years. Churches change anyway, so there was a lot going on in my life. So yeah,
Okay. Is
it's
hmm?
amazing sometimes how the right and perfect people just show up in your life. Have you ever experienced that?
Definitely, Mary. Definitely, because I think if things are meant to be, they will happen. And you're right. Like some ideas, people. I mean, the right skill set happens to show up at the right time. So I'm strongly a believer in that. You know, I'm strong.
What 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 you think about, you
Yeah.
bring about.
So true. So true. How long did it take you to write the book?
Oh, I kind of messed around with it, because I was still working at the church. So, how long did it take me to make the changes on the chapters and everything else like that? I would say over a year.
Over a year. Okay.
And yeah,
Now, do
and I just kept going back to it. And another friend of mine who's a minister here anyway, he's written, I don't know, 3 or 4 books. And anyway, he would often just, slip in a little text message, "Oh, how's the book coming?" And I'd write back something like, "Oh, it's not." And then I would start,
Hmm.
yeah.
Like having all of this support and encouragement uh, behind you was motivating for sure.
Oh, that's, sometimes I'm going to cry, but sometimes I think all the people that I've known, that I know through the stuttering community, like how blessed I am. I made application to speak in England or to speak in Liverpool, and I know people over there, and just stuttering really has brought so much into my
Hmm.
life when I allowed it
When you
to.
allowed it to, and that's the
That's
most
important.
important thing, Mary, is to be open, to allowing people into one's life, positive people into one's life. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And now that, Zoom has really opened the whole world up.
Hmm. Now, do you have an, any advice to give to other people who stutter that are considering writing a book? Any words of wisdom and of encouragement?
Just get started and know that all of us, might come from a different place or whatever, because there are getting more and more people who are writing, you know, books about stuttering and about their journey through it. And when I looked at them, I thought, oh, who's going to read this one? And yet there was something in me that just said, no, it's yours to do. And so I
Hmm.
followed that. So, yeah. And just like any other book, you you have a different approach. You have different words of wisdom that can help me or can help somebody else. And so, yeah. Uh, if it feels right in my heart, then I usually do it. And if it doesn't work out, well, I learn from it.
Hmm.
There are a few things that haven't worked out. We won't go into those
Well,
right
it
now.
all sounds positive, Mary. All sounds positive. Now, in retrospect, is there any information that you would have liked to be included that you didn't include? When you think back now, is there any other information?
Wow, nobody's I don't know. It covers most of the areas, and fear is such a large part of it. fear is such a large part of our lives, and it's still a large part of mine. And maybe I no, I don't think so.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
think so. I mean, and no matter what we learn or no matter what we write, I think we still keep learning from it if we're open to that. Um, as I said, even though I have retired from ministry, it doesn't mean that I don't stop
Hmm. Hmm.
learning, that I don't stop
Hmm.
learning. Yeah.
Is
And learning can be fun, It doesn't have to be getting your head stuck in a book and
well, there's
that kind
lots
of
of
stuff.
opportunities that we're open to have fun. Definitely, definitely. You know, I mean, just having having a positive perspective helps us to really sort of be open and to enjoy life more. You know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mary,
Oh,
is there
yeah.
another book forthcoming in the works? Have you thought about writing another book?
No, no.
One was enough, is it?
Well, yeah. And I'm involved in other things. I'm still involved in church. They're still involved in the spiritual world or whatever I call it. And I've worked with ex-offenders. I still work with ex-offenders. And that's been going on for 20 something years. And that all started because I wrote to men in prison who stuttered.
Mm,
And I got their names through the
mm,
NSA. And one of them, we are still writing or getting in touch now and then, even after that was in the 90s or something like that.
mm.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, Mary. Wonderful.
Yeah. So
Now, have you thought about like have you thought about exploring opportunities to include your book like in more of a study group, studying it from chapter by chapter, and just exploring it to to be introduced to a school curriculum course. Have you thought about that, Mary, as a learning opportunity, an open educational resource?
I have not. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is good. Are you talking about uh, offering this to people who stutter?
Well, not well. Yes, yes, for sure. And Paul now, Paul has developed a course for his students at the Memorial University, and is all about stuttering, different aspects of stuttering. So Paul refers to it as an open educational resource. It can be done online. It can be done in class. But he has started to be open to other authors that have written books about stuttering to use as sort of instruction study for his students, something like that, you know.
I would love that.
Okay.
More as a conversation.
Yeah, because I mean this is a good listening to you now. This is another learning opportunity, not only for people who stutter, but for students, uh, speech language pathologists, healthcare professionals, the general public. And I'm thinking, and also because you're involved in the church, like in with the Sunday school, things like that. So there's a lot of opportunities to expand the learning based on your book.
I would love that.
Okay. Well, we'll start talking to your friends about it.
And I certainly have the time to do that. So I mean, if you know of any way that that can happen, and
Okay. So what I'll do, Mary, is I'll send Paul an email stating that you're you're open to discussing this with them and to see where the conversation goes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I I was at a Unity church on the way down here, and I spoke, and my talk was entitled "Beyond the Fear," and I sold the book afterwards, and on the Amazon.com. Um, uh, my minister friend here in Kansas City read it and wrote it, and they were saying that it doesn't only have to do with stuttering, but it has to do with life.
Definitely. And
And
and I'm thinking as well is be a good opportunity to include it in high schools, high school students, you know, teachers. So anyhow, so I'll sort of talk to Paul about it, and then have Paul contact you then.
you
Okay.
can be my agent.
Okay. No charge, of course. No charge. I'm not charging anything.
What is an agent at 007 or something like that?
Years ago. Years ago. So look, overall, Mary, has the book changed you? Do you feel more confident, more aware? Do you feel like you have a different personal perspective now after writing a book? Because I mean, to do something like that takes a lot of courage, concentration, a lot of self-searching, and that's quite admirable. Has it changed you?
You're asking me questions nobody else has asked me, which is good. It really has shown me that all things are possible. And sometimes when we think it isn't, maybe it might not be. And once again, like I just felt that it was the right thing. I just felt that it was something that was mine to do. And also, and I will get back to age again because I said like I'm 85. That doesn't mean that when you get older that you sit on your couch and watch TV all day, or whatever you want. And if somebody else wants to do that, that's fine and dandy, but that doesn't work for me.
Hmm.
I've still got, I don't know, I've still got things to learn. I've still got, people to meet and places to go.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And rather than, sitting home and thinking, oh, what am I going to do today? No, get off your butt and find something. Find how you can serve somebody else
That
in some way.
that's great prose of wisdom. Great prose of wisdom.
In some way, whether it's at the corner food bank or whatever you do, and all of us have a different uh, you know feeling in our heart as to how we can serve.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And it's we all have responsibility to give back by paying it forward, because in many ways we may not realize about in many ways we're so blessed, so blessed.
we have so many things to be thankful for,
Hmm.
and
So,
whether we
so
stutter.
Mary, when if one one of our listeners are interested I should say, if our listeners are interested in purchasing the book, how would they purchase it?
Oh, you can go on Amazon.ca.
Okay.
When it's
Eh,
on Amazon.ca, or Amazon.com if
okay.
somebody's from the States, but you can get it. And it's usually there within a couple of days.
Okay. And And the cost of the book, Mary, how much are you charging?
$8.95.
That's a bargain price, a fire sale price.
Well, I'm not here to make the money, honey. I'm just here to share this.
To share the wealth of wisdom and knowledge, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write it thinking, oh, I'm going to be rich.
Oh, okay. So, Mary, we'll close now. But do do you have any last thoughts about your book that you want to share before we end?
Hmm. Not about the book, but I just want everybody to realize, you know, that all things are really possible. And I know that might sound trite in some ways, and yet if it feels right in your heart, if it feels right for you, you're all I learned so much through the writing of the book about who I am and what to do. And really been stuttering has been the greatest lesson, the all-round lesson that I've had so far in my life. You know,
Wonderful.
I met so many people. My good Lord.
Mm. You gotta so
Um,
you have developed an extended wonderful family,
it is
a global extended family.
yeah. And there's the opportunity now for everybody to do that, you know, in Canada, in the United States, really throughout the world. And there's no, we don't have to feel alone.
Mm.
Well, most people, I don't know whether I said this before, but I mean, most people who stutter are really very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
so hang on to that. Make that. Yeah. You know,
Okay. Well, Mary, thank you very much for your time this morning, and thank thank you again for writing your book. Because I mean, I mean, the more that people sort of share their lived experiences, the more that we
yeah,
support and help each other.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, Marion. And we will have you back again for sure.
Oh, well, thank you, Greg. It's always a joy to speak with you. It always is. And thank you for what you are doing, really, to come into so many lives of people who stutter. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mary, and thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay. You take
Okay,
care, hon.
we'll talk later.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Some Stutterla is hosted by Greg O'Grady. It is produced, recorded, and edited by Paul De Decker, as well as Luca Dinu, who, by the way, wrote this jazzy theme music. Leah Bugden and Alicia Megison command our pages on Instagram and TikTok. Editing assistance was provided by the Labrador Languages Preservation Laboratory, or Labradory, at the Memorial University of Newfoundland. You can listen to or subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Spotify. Video versions of each episode are found on our YouTube page. Some Stutterla is a production of the Communication Collaborative. Thanks for listening.